Hollywood, the land of dreams where the streets are paved with gold. The most common link that connects golden era cinematic icons such as Humphrey Bogart, Elizabeth Taylor, Marlon Brando, and Katharine Hepburn was the mesmerizing talent brought to life on the silver screen under the old Hollywood studio system. The screen appearance of famous stars such as Clark Gable and Karen Lombard was enough to guarantee a full house during this lucrative time in the film industry. An average of 95 million people went to the movies in one of the 23,000 theaters across America in 1929. In this same year, the major studios, MGM, Paramount, Warner Brothers, 20th Century Fox, and RKO Pictures exclusively produced, distributed, and owned over 700 feature films and all theatrical circuits where their movies premiered. During the golden era, the studios had full control of the business from script to screen, leaving the stars, writers, directors, and other staff tied to strict contracts biased to the studios. It was the U.S. versus Paramount Pictures antitrust case of 1948 that drew the final curtain on the studio system. The U.S. Supreme Court ended the studio's exclusive rights to the theaters and ordered studios to divest themselves of the theater chain. This opened the door to the new Hollywood system, where lucrative business deals and incentives would be the driving force for studios to greenlight future films. It was during this modern era studios became more financially creative by focusing their attention on the art of the deal instead of the art of the movie. In 1948, 65% of the population saw a movie on a weekly basis, but by 2008, only 6% went to the movies due to the influx of televisions found in the majority of American homes. American theaters sold 4.6 billion tickets in 1948, but only 2 billion tickets in 1958, when families stayed home for their television entertainment. By 1988, ticket sales plunged to 1 billion. And in the early 21st century, less than 10% of the population went to the theater to see a movie. Unable to stop the mass exodus of moviegoers, the studios had to come up with another plan. Paying advertisement became the strategy of choice, costing studios $35.9 million to bombard audiences with 30 seconds of ads in 2007. It was cheaper to advertise than the youthful generation who clustered around the same television programs. It is the teens and those under 25 years who flock to the theaters, filling the empty seats and consuming vast amounts of popcorn and soda to boost the high-margin retail business. Teens are the prime targets that help studios publicize their films and drive sales of electronic games, sports entertainment, fast food, and other licensable items to support the industry's lucrative multi-million-dollar tie-in incentive. Hollywood had this powerful incentive to use whatever means at their disposal to pressure studio executives into greenlighting their projects. It is these multiple incentives made available to the film industry that determines whether or not they will succeed in getting their project off the ground. Hollywood Studios has both an official budget that is often leaked to trade papers such as Variety or Hollywood Reporter, and a closely held production cost budget that shows how much money the film actually costs to produce. It is this seldom seen closely held production cost budget that accounts for the money studios actually receive from both the invisible maneuvers such as pre-sales, windfalls, and tie-in deals, and the lucrative incentives provided by government subsidies, tax shelter deals, product placement, and other sources that include hedge funds and asymmetric deals with outsiders. These incentives can tremendously offset the amount the studios have to invest of their own money to produce their films. Pre-sales abroad, for example, can reduce the risk of producing a film to practically zero. Paramount's Lara Croft Tomb Raider is a prime example of this studio financing system. Although the official production budget for this 2001 film was $94 million, the studio's cost was only $8.7 million. Paramount received $65 million from Intermedia Films in Germany in exchange for distribution rights for the film for 6 countries: Britain, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and Japan. These pre-sales left Paramount with the rights to market the film to the rest of the world. The film was shot in Britain in order to qualify for Section 48 tax relief, allowing the studio to make a sale-leaseback transaction with the British Lombard Bank. The film was sold to British investors on paper only, who in turn collected a multi-million subsidy from the British government that was then sold back to Paramount. That maneuver gave the studio a share of the tax relief subsidy, amounting to $12 million. Paramount then sold the copyright through Herbert Kloiber to a German tax shelter. Since German law does not require the film to be shot in Germany, the copyright transfer was a temporary money-for-nothing transaction, giving Paramount another $10.2 million to pocket. Before the cameras started rolling, Paramount had earned a risk-free $87 million. Although Paramount paid about $1.7 million in commissions and fees to middlemen, it still left the studio over $85.3 million in the bank. Since Paramount knew they could sell the pay TV rights to sister company Showtime, the studio faced little to no risk with the output deal for $8.5 million. At the end of all the deals and transactions, Paramount banked over $100 million from theaters, DVDs, television, and other rights. New Line Cinema followed the same business tactic by using a combination of German tax shelters, New Zealand subsidies, British subsidies, and pre-sales to pay for almost the entire cost of the Lord of the Rings trilogy production. In addition to tie-ins, pre-sales, subsidies, and tax shelter incentives, Hollywood's invisible money-making deals also include the replication deals and windfalls that made $250 million for Paramount before their filming of Titanic. The studio received $50 million from Toshiba for agreeing to release Titanic on DVD in time for Christmas, and $150 million from Panasonic for agreeing to allow them to take over video replication from Thomson, a $15 million from the law firm of Zeppelin, Brettenham, and Circuit City stores for agreeing to support the DIVX format. Since the DIVX format was never put into motion, Paramount got to keep the entire amount. In the case of windfalls, it does not really matter if studio films fail or succeed. Windfalls assure studio bottom line profits. The art of the deal would not be complete without the additional incentive of product placement, a studio favorite that has a long history in Hollywood. The James Bond franchise is well known for their product placement of fast, high-end cars such as Aston Martin D85. In the 1974 Bond film The Man with the Golden Gun, producer Albert Broccoli made a deal with American Motors to place its vehicles in all the chase scenes in exchange for advertising dollars to promote the film. Agent 007 himself, Sean Connery, attracted a Las Vegas audience when he was caught in a fierce car chase, driving his Ford Mustang along the Vegas Strip. Virtually all the cars that were destroyed in the Bond movies were Fords, since Ford offered to supply all the cars needed by the producers if Bond drove a Mustang. Product placement has always been and always will be a major contributor to defraying Hollywood's costs in producing their films. Hollywood also has strong connections to Wall Street and private investors to help pay for their films. William Randolph Hearst, Joe Kennedy, and Howard Hughes, categorized by the financial term civilians, were major Hollywood contributors in the 1920s. Civilians such as thousands of investors in Disney's Silver Screen partnerships sought only the tax sheltering benefits, but the IRS almost entirely eliminated this loophole by the 1980s. Some civilians, including hedge funds, thought they could make money by negotiating more favorable deals with the studios. Why would a studio want to seek outside funding? In business, studios relied on gullibility. Studios would act as if they were in poor financial difficulties to get stars and their agents to reduce their demands of compensation. In reality, studios can self-finance their entire slate of films and have sufficient revenues from licensing of DVDs and TV rights. It is the asymmetric deal with the outsider that draws studios to seek outside investors, who get a smaller share of the total earnings than the studios on an equal investment of capital. Even JP Morgan Chase offered a unique opportunity to hedge fund investors to participate in the most profitable segment of the motion picture industry. JP Morgan Chase described major film studios as capital constrained, where they often must seek co-financing arrangements with other studios and other outside sources for their funding. However, this is not true. Hedge funds brimming with excess capital, at least up until the crash in 2008, made perfect civilian recruits for Hollywood, except that hedge fund managers had neither the expertise nor the time to evaluate the prospects of individual films. In the studio's asymmetric deals with Wall Street, studios would enhance their own returns by getting a distribution fee on their investors' share in the revenues. Hollywood's tradition of giving investors the short end of the stick is alive and well and in place where corporate financing is about the art of the deal, an art Hollywood has perfected brilliantly. Today, the movie experience as we know it is changing, with the direction of digital and streaming entertainment services. Future generations may be deprived of the real excitement of watching a feature film come to life on the silver screen with a bucket of popcorn, an iced soda, and friends to share the memories. Hopefully, this will never be the case, as Hollywood's golden streak still shines through the art of business and financing. Deep in the reality of film studios' cunning business tactics still lies the glamour of Hollywood. The business must go on.